Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Madras Arsenal. Today, we're going to be talking about Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, the speech that he gave yesterday. This is a topic that kind of hits home for me, and I think for a lot of people, especially if you've served or have an interest in the military and how it operates. Essentially, a lot of what he spoke about yesterday, and I got the main points here on my phone, are things that I also would have identified as being problematic. So number one is the role of the military, which is war fighting, right? Like, it should be very obvious that the role of the military is to fight wars and win wars, and be aggressive. You're hunting humans, basically, is what you're doing. He said that the era of Department of Defense is over, and they restored it to the historical name, which I thought was kind of cool, to the Department of War, or the War Department. The sole mission, like he said, war fighting. He actually had a pretty interesting critique, and I know a lot of people say this from time to time, but we've not won a war since 1947. It's always been conflicts and things like that. So he wants to maximize lethality among the force, which is honestly probably what it needs. A rejection of the woke culture and ideological distractions. So this one, I entered service in 2010. I believe the following year, in 2011, because I did basic one year and AIT another year because I was in college at the time. So I did what they call it split op. I don't know if they do that anymore. Maybe they do. But anyway, that was way back in 2010. So probably 2011, I was in AIT, and I remember towards the end of my AIT, which AIT is Advanced Individual Training. I went to engineer school to be an engineer, and at Fort Leonard Wood. So towards the end of it, they repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which everything was fine. Like, we had a guy that was gay in our barracks, in our platoon. I didn't notice anything. I remember he had a giant Justin Bieber poster in his locker, but I didn't, nobody ever thought anything of it. Let's see, they're going to ban identity months. So I think it goes for federal workers as well. There's like a month for everything, like Hispanic month, Black month, Pacific Islander month. There's like everything, and nobody really celebrates it. Like, I mean, the only thing is, you're wasting paper to put up these posters to identify what month it is. I did not see anybody that really cared what month it was, for an identity. It certainly couldn't have white month, because that would be extremely, I don't even want to go there. So the thing about the military is, like, you're supposed to lose your individuality, and you're supposed to conform to the military. So, like, for the Army, for instance, you take away your past and you become one with the Army. I don't understand how this, and I remember when it happened, it was about 2016, 17, maybe 18, around that time frame, when all of this, like, diversity and what was the phrase, diversity is our strength. How is that possible? Like, I get we all come from different backgrounds and everything, but we have one common goal. There's a reason we all wear the same uniform. There is a reason that there's deer out there. There is a reason that, we all have the same set of standards, the same types of haircuts, the same everything. It's to keep us uniform, not diverse, right? And so then I remember, and this is one I really love that he did, is the beards. Like, I get everybody wants to be a cool dude and have beards and whatnot, but you have to maintain this professional look at the same time. So everybody all of a sudden wanted, like, I remember like this Viking craze came out when the show Vikings came on, and then like all of a sudden everybody started identifying as a Viking. It was the weird, I don't know, it was crazy. So they put in religious exemptions, and they get, they're like, oh, I'm a Norse pagan. Are you? Like, what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really care what you are, but it's just like all of a sudden everybody started doing it because they knew they could get away with wearing a beard or growing a beard for getting a religious exemption and doing it that way. By the way, Walmart shirts, they suck. All these buttons kind of like popped off. So don't get your shirts at Walmart. Personnel policy. Leaders must embody competent, qualified, professional, agile, aggressive, innovative, risk-taking, which that's the biggest thing, is a lot of leaders do not, they are adverse to risk. They don't want to do anything that could potentially jeopardize their career, their NCOER, or their OERs. NCOER stands for Non-Commissioned Officer Evaluation Report, OER, Officer Evaluation Report. And these are usually, they're supposed to be written by your supervisors and your leadership. Unfortunately, a lot of times what happens is they'll write them themselves because their leaders and supervisors are too lazy to put in the time and effort to take notes on their people and to properly give them an evaluation. So you have a lot of people that write their own reports. Yeah, I'm going to make myself sound like a superstar on paper. And then you hand it in to your supervisor and you're like, all right, it looks like it's pretty good to me. That checks. Let's sign off on it. People giving themselves awards. Just don't even get me started. So yeah, I like that about it. Overhaul of physical and professional standards. So for the Army, the ACFT replaced the APFT. I kind of feel like the APFT was good enough. That's just a personal opinion of mine. It was fast. It was a pretty good assessment. I think we've been using it since the 70s or 80s or something like that. So I'd say for more senior leaders, they probably do not take PT test. There's a thing called pencil whipping, and I suspect that a significant amount of those older and less fit-looking leaders probably have not taken a PT test in a very long time. And so the thing I like about what Hegseth said is that regardless of rank, from private all the way to 4-star general, you're taking a PT test twice a year, which most units, every unit that I was ever in, you do take one twice a year. So it's like every 6 months. And I had always done my best to keep it on the the youngest age bracket within my score. One thing that he said, fat shaming rhetoric. It's unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals. Yes, it absolutely is. I mean, honestly, and honestly, Secretary of War said if he can do it, there's no reason that any person in the military that wears the uniform should not be able to pass a physical fitness test for whatever branch they're in. If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every other member. I do know my last assignment, I was working on general staff, and that general did quite regularly do PT throughout. He would pick a section, G1, G2, G3, and then he'd do PT with them. One is he was engaged, drove us into the ground, but he was engaged, and he showed that he was physically fit just like everybody else. So I did kind of like that about him. Basic training reforms, scary, tough, and disciplined programs allowing drill sergeants to shark attack, swear, and physically correct recruits to build resilience. So I was in, like I said, I came through in 2010. That's when I did my basic at Fort Leonard Wood. And those drill sergeants were right out of Iraq. And so they had a lot of trauma and stuff that was definitely pent up. One, because they knew where the majority of us and that training company were headed. They just came from the Middle East, Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, this was their downtime. As crazy as that sounds, as soon as they got off the trail or got done being a drill sergeant, they were back overseas, and they were doing the best that they could to train us for high stress environments and situations and things like that. The shark attack, I know they got rid of that. I think it was a really good shock for people to experience that, because you get off of, you get to your unit, get off the bus, and yeah, it is like a shark attack, but it's supposed to be a high stress situation. And I know a lot of the soldiers that were, some of the soldiers, actually, a lot that we were getting were extremely soft. And when I say soft, if you try to enforce the standard, even in a professional way of saying, hey, your hair color is the wrong, it's not a natural color, you would come down on an investigation. Me and a lot of other NCOs, like, it happened. People would get offended. It was ridiculous, and I'm really glad that they are starting to get rid of that. Let's see. Empowering leaders and reducing bureaucracy, execute to win, not to lose. So basically having that aggressive mindset that whatever we set our minds to, it will be done. Strategic and operational priorities, build capacity, increase munitions. I apologize, my camera died, so I'm having to use my phone for the final half of this video. I just kind of want to get it out there. But one of the things about the wokeism that was in the military is around 2020, I had, obviously the riots were happening and stuff like that. I had a first sergeant, and this has really been weighing on me for a very long time. It really has ever since he said it. We were sitting sort of in like an office area, and we were just discussing like the stuff that was going on, right? And he said that the Constitution needs to be rewritten and redone. And I said, well, how's that? Why? And he was basically, went on about everybody being a slaveholder or whatever. What's interesting is many years before that, when he decided to enter service for this country that sounds like he's not happy with, he took an oath to that Constitution. This is my pocket Constitution that I used to have in my shoulder pocket every single day, right? Because it's a reminder of what I took an oath to defend. And so he had the nerve and the unpatriotism to state that what he took an oath to defend needed to be reformed and redone and abolished and redone. I had a lot of problems with that. And I just kind of let him have his opinion and left it at that. But those are the kind of leaders that you would run into from time to time. When Biden got into office and we had that extremism stand down, where it was mandatory for every service member to go through this extremism class, there's a lot of disagreements in that room with a lot of people. A lot of people found it insulting that all of a sudden there's extremism in the military. That's when it really started to get politicized. I brought up the fact that we don't take political sides, and I actually held this pocket Constitution up, and we were in an auditorium. And I said, you guys can go on Amazon, you can get these for like $5 for a pack of 3. And I was like, that's what everybody in this room took an oath to, not to some ideological extremist thing. And I was like, I feel like the vetting process, for the most part, does a pretty good job at vetting out extremists. And besides, extremists, it doesn't really go hand in hand with the military. And so when I got done saying that, everybody just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was crazy, I don't know. But I also made the point that you guys took an oath you need to be able to know what your Constitution says. You're also serving your country, right? And so, like that first sergeant, hated the Constitution that he swore an oath to every time he re-enlisted, still swore an oath to. But he's out now, and he is reaping the benefits of not only of the retirement from the military or from the Army, but I'm sure he also gets some kind of VA compensation, right, for serving over 20 years. So the system in the country that he has a problem with, he sure doesn't mind taking money from them. And that says a lot about his character, I think. You know, I really hate to bring that up, but Hegseth said is if you can't conform to the uniformity, then do the honorable thing and resign. And I wish that that guy had just gotten out a long time ago, because there's no telling how many lives he impacted in a negative way like that. So that's my view on Hegseth's speech. I think it's headed in the right direction to get the military back to what it is, and that is to fighting wars and winning wars, and getting politics and bureaucracy out of the military. It does not belong, and it just cannot coexist. You have to be neutral. There was plenty of things that presidents did, administrations did on both sides of the aisle that I agreed with and didn't agree with, but I kept my mouth shut and I did my job just like everybody should. And the vast majority do, but you do have those outliers. They're toxic leaders. They absolutely are. I had a sergeant major in one of my last units that way overweight, but he chewed me out like a dog because of a situation I had going on with my family. So yeah, Hegseth is there's a reason he was saying what he was saying, and I hope people can kind of understand that. And the direction that the Department of War is going, I think, is in a positive direction, especially for what's coming up here in the possible near future. I sure hope the war does not break out, but it ain't looking too good. So anyway, sorry about my rant. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Yeah, and I will see you guys in the next video, and I'll make sure that my battery is charged up.